A bipartisan group of senators in the United States is calling on Canada to do more to meet its commitments on defense spending. Nearly a quarter of the U.S. Senate has signed a sharply worded letter and sent that to Ottawa yesterday. The senators say Canada needs to boost spending during one of the most dangerous moments in NATO's history. Let's bring in Janice McGregor on this story with more on what the senators are demanding. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Heather. You're exactly right. The letter really opens by talking about how NATO as an alliance is facing one of the most severe threat landscapes in its history, the letter says. There are 23 signatories on this letter. As you say, they're from both sides of the aisle in Washington. And they begin by sort of praising the contributions Canada has made, for example, leading the battle group in Latvia, but point out that in their eyes, Canada still is falling short. These are senators, some of them that sit on the Senate Defense Committee, although notably it doesn't include its chair. The signatories include prominent Republican voices and a broad range of them, I should say, from Mitt Romney to Ted Cruz. It also includes prominent Democrats like Tim Kaine, Joe Manchin. Focusing squarely here, though, on how by 2029, Canada's defense spending as a share of its gross domestic product will only hit just over 1.7% when NATO allies are supposed to have hit the target of 2% by 2024. And that's a target that they always describe as a basement, not a ceiling. The senators write that they're profoundly disappointed at the most recent spending projections from Canada. And then they go on to remind Canada how NORAD is in dire need of modernization, they say. And this is a process that can only move forward with direct cooperation from your government, meaning Justin Trudeau's government. Blair was in Washington, Defense Minister Bill Blair, just last week. He was laying out Canada's future spending plans in meetings with his counterpart, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, other senior officials. On Parliament Hill yesterday's reporters caught up with Bill Blair, and he continued to give reassurances about how Canada is, in fact, stepping up on defense spending.
We know that Canada needs to invest in other capabilities that are not yet included in this year's budget, but are inevitably part of the investment that we're going to have to make. But it's important those investments be made well. Canada is on a very strong upward trajectory in defense spending. We know we've got work to do. We've acknowledged that from day one, that there is more that we need to do. We've clearly indicated in our budget the path to getting that done.
So, Janice, as we listen there to Minister Blair, let's talk about the timing of this letter. Why is it coming to his attention, to the federal government's attention now? Why are the senators sending it now?
Well, you might say it suggests that some people didn't like what they heard from Blair in Washington last week. And of course, the next NATO summit is going to be hosted by the Americans in Washington this July. It often falls to the host to set the tone for the conversation, which in this case might include nagging some of the laggards in the alliance. It's also an election year, though, in Washington. I think 10 of the 23 signatories, we went through them, are up for re-election this year. Threats to hold Canada accountable for not spending more do ebb and flow, ranging from the campaigning Donald Trump, who has threatened to not come to the defense of NATO allies that don't spend enough. But the Biden administration currently is often kind of more diplomatic on this front. His ambassador in Ottawa, David Cohen, for example, said last month he looks at a wide range of factors when he measures Canada's contribution, not just the percentage, but the overall trajectory, which is increasing. And I noted, for example, when Germany's defense minister was in Ottawa last month, did not sort of give a very sharp criticism of Canada on the spending front either. So we'll see where things go, but this is all shaping up towards that key meeting in July in Washington.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.